Welcome, everyone. We will get started in a few minutes, waiting for many others to join. So just bear with us. We should be with you soon. Welcome, everyone. If you're just joining, bear with us a few more minutes. We're going to give it some more time for people to join on before we start. A couple more people joining on, so give it just a minute longer. All right. Well, welcome, everyone. This is our webinar on the custom My Plan and telephone call configuration and utilization. Thank you for joining. Most of you guys will be in listen-only mode. Feel free to use the question box to ask questions. We will be answering those probably at the end of the presentation. We do have a lot of information to cover. If we do not have time to answer those questions, we will take note of those and follow up with you. Of course, you can always reach out to your salesperson if there's something that wasn't covered and you have more questions about, or if you just need more info, then that will happen as well. So, Dwight, if you want to go to the next. I see a few more people are joining, so if you have anything that you need to ask, put that in the question box at the bottom. You can also raise your hand. Question box, there's also a chat box. Go ahead and enter in the question as opposed to the chat box, but if you're having some kind of technical difficulties, you can let us know that as well. You can also raise your hand if you're not seeing your screen or something, and I will chat with you to on. All right, next slide. All right, let me give you a quick little intro into Emed Apps. If you don't know who we are a healthcare information technology services company. We provide practices, clinics, and hospitals with a full range of services, as well as a suite of products that are designed to increase efficiency and facilitate communication. We were founded in 1999. We've been working as a partner with NextGen since 2001. We work as a subcontractor for NextGen as well, and we serve healthcare clients all across the USA. Our services and products are for NextGen clients. We have specific NextGen services and products. And go ahead, if you guys have a few minutes, follow us on all of the social media platforms. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. We also have a YouTube channel that has a lot of our webinars on there. You can get our webinars as well on our webpage at emedapps.com. But go ahead and just search Emed Apps on those platforms, and you should be able to find us. We'd love to have you follow us along. All right, now today our presenter is Dwight Schuler, so I'm going to pass it to him, let him give you a little background information and dive right into all the info we have for you today.
Thanks, Holly. I appreciate it. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thanks for joining. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to spend a few minutes with us. I hope that you find it enlightening and informative. Obviously, if you have questions, we have a lot of material to cover. So if you have questions, then please make sure that we get those questions, and we'll respond if we can at the end, or if not, I'll make sure that I get back to you. So a little bit about me real quick. I have been with Emed Apps for about 4.5 years now. I'm an application specialist. I work with several clients across the country. I've been in the healthcare industry for 15 years now. And when I'm not working to fulfill all those obligations, I enjoy being outdoors with my kids. I have 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. And I enjoy coaching their sports teams. As you can see, the baseball and softball, and then my little mini me, Austin, that's his lizard, Fred. And he's, yeah, not such a great lizard, but anyway. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually run through the My Custom Plan first, and then from there, we're going to transition over to the telephone communication template, and mainly the component, the communication component on that template. So I wanted to just start out by just going over some of the benefits of the My Custom Plan template. So there's an older version, which is the My Plan template, and which is the My Custom Plan template. That is more inclusive and obviously a lot for you to use. And there is a decent amount of build in the system for this, for the custom plan, the My Custom Plan template. Once that build gets out of the way, then it runs pretty smoothly. I will let you know that the build's not substantial, and NextGen does have a conversion tool, that a utility that will actually convert over all the current order sets for you that you have already stored in My Plan. And I've done that for a few of my clients, and we didn't have any problems. I will tell you that it moves everything. So it's a little overwhelming at the beginning, but it's always good to have all that data, and then you can pare it down. But it really helps to generate your order sets for you without having to manually go in and do all those. The nice thing about the My Custom Plan is, one, NextGen is going to continue to support this template moving forward. And that started in 5.9.2, I believe. On out, they're going to continue to support that. The old My Plan template is not going to be supported. When I say not supported, they're not going to develop anymore on it. So you would actually not see any changes. It would be the same template you have currently in your system if you're using the My Plan template. The nice thing about this is also that you can have unlimited number of orders for any diagnosis. In the My Plan template, you can only do 6 in certain areas, and then you can add some in the additional fields, but obviously there's a limitation there. You can also have multiple order sets available for a diagnosis group. So let's say, for example, there's diabetes, and you may have a 3-month, 6-month, 9-month, and year order set built for those. When you build that out, you can do the specific test at 3 months. Obviously, hemoglobin would be included, and then you can do the 6-month, 9-month, 10-month, or 12-month. Those orders would be specific to that time frame. So that's another benefit that you have. You can also select a lot of the details before placing the orders. Also bypass the order module processing window. It'll go, so I'll show you that today. We're going to do a demo here in a few, and you'll see that once I place the order, it goes right to the orders module. And then you can also manage orders from that template. You can actually create order sets on the fly, and you can update order sets. Now, if you're already using it, great, but I would say that initially, if you wanted to implement this My Custom Plan template, I would actually turn those features off initially so that the clinical staff can get used to the actual template and the way it works. You can work out some of the kinks. Then you could turn that on if you wanted to. But from a management standpoint and taking care of that, if you're in a support role for next gen, uh, if everyone's creating them on the fly, it does make it a little bit more difficult to manage. All right, so a couple things that I want to touch on. First of all, the My Custom Plan template. So basically, how do you access it? Essentially, you would go in and select it from the System Practice template, and it's a practice template, and it's labeled My Custom Plan Setup. This is the main setup where you're going to actually turn on those features, build your order sets. You're going to make it available to your staff. Um, and then when you're setting up the My Custom Plan to be the default template to launch, there is a specific checkbox on the My Custom Plan configuration that you can actually click on. It's the very top panel under General Configuration. The checkbox is Launch My Custom Plan right here. And I'll point that out when we do the demo as well. Also in that top section, there's where you can go in and you can select the bypass order module processing feature as well. But to set that to show up initially and right away, you would just select that Launch My Custom Plan checkbox at the top. A couple other configuration options that I wanted to point out, and you'll see those on the template. You can set the My Custom Plan required fields. So it allows users to select required fields. Now there are two links there. And if you look back on the previous slide, the two links are in blue right here. So you have your set My Custom Plan required fields and then set default display for plan types in My Custom Plan. So what I'm doing is kind of expanding on those right now. When you actually have My Plan required fields, so when you place a referral, there's going to be requirements that you're going to have on there. Also, when you place a follow-up order, you may have some other requirements as well, and then disposition. So these will come up when you click on those blue links, and the same for both of them. For the My Custom Plan default display, so this sets when you set up referrals and follow-ups. So when you're placing those orders, you can actually look at all, or you can just see internal. And I'll show you where that comes into play for you. There's also another checkbox that says allow mapping of unmapped DX codes. So essentially what this is saying is the user can add a diagnosis to a diagnosis group from the template. Now, I know that one of my clients does use that, and it hasn't really created a problem. I think that most of those are already set by default in NextGen, so there's really not much need to adjust them. But I just want to let you know about that checkbox as well, and I'll show you that here in a few. So one of the things we're going to cover is the order set configuration. So essentially, the order sets are what drives this template. You would attach an order, you could create an order set and then attach it to a diagnosis group. So I keep using the example of diabetes. With if the order set name that you create, say for example, Emed Apps webinar, and the diagnosis group is diabetes, then any of those diagnoses that are attached to that diagnosis group would then pull in that order set for you. And then there's a few other fields here that do affect how the template will function. So obviously we talked about the diagnosis group. Then you have the department and the provider. They're the next two boxes at the top. They're not necessary. You do not have to have anything in there if you want. I know for a fact that I've built it out to where I'll have hypertension or diabetes, and there'll be a generic default set of orders. And then also they're actually additional order sets that are created specific to a provider that may have one or two different tests or one or two medications. And then you can also break it out by department, saying, for example, family practice. But majority of the time, and it doesn't have to be done that way, but there's a generic diagnosis order set attached to a diagnosis group, and that's set as default for everyone. And then the individual providers can actually make the request for those and go ahead and you can actually attach it specifically to the provider. I haven't built both ways in the system, but the way I have it built is going to be attached to a provider. Obviously, the class is the next field that is critical. The class means the type of order. You have labs, diagnostics, medications, procedures, supplies, office labs, and instructions. So when you choose that class, it's going to give you a choice in the template, and I'll show you. We're going to go in and make an order set in a few, but that will show you what that selection does, and it gives you the choices of all of these items there, the lab orders and diagnostics and so on, and then you can actually select what's built within your system. Now there are two sections. You have the top section on the slide, which is the order set name, where you can create your own name. You can pull one up from before, and then you have down below you have the um, filter grid. What this does is it allows users to manipulate and review the orders in the order set. So if you actually select hypertension and then you select that same order set name in the bottom filter, it'll show you all the tests. When you click on a test in the bottom grid, it will actually then put it into the top order set, and then you can actually add, update, remove, whatever you'd like to do. Okay. So next slide, we're rolling on through. So we're going to go ahead and do the demo for the time being. So I'm going to end the slideshow and I'll kick it back off. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in to the My Plan in a second. To start out with, I'm going to show you the configuration template. So on the configuration template, you're going to gain access to that template, you're going to actually click System Practice Template. And then from there, you're going to select the Practice tab and obviously select all. I don't have it set up in my preferred. We're going to go down to where we see My Custom Plan Setup. You're going to select that. So now what this is going to do is it's going to open up your My Plan config template. This template is where you do all your configuration, all your build. So I'm going to open up the top panel, which is the general configuration, and review the things that I just covered. So you have Launch My Custom Plan. That's where you actually identify that you want the My Custom Plan to actually be the item the item that shows up when you hit the My Plan link anywhere. Anywhere you're going to access that My Plan, it's just going to be overwritten, and it's going to show you the My Custom Plan template. There's another checkbox here, Add on Row Select. So what this does is it enables the Add on Row Select checkbox on the My Custom Plan template. What it's doing is it's automatically checking that box. So when you select a row from your order set, it's going to drop it down into the bottom grid, which is the pending grid for the order. And then once you place orders, anything that's in that grid is actually going to go ahead and be processed. And also you'll see the bypass orders module processing. If you don't do that, then you're going to have to process the order through order module processing. And if you do select that, then it's automatically going to go to the orders module. Now, this is an on-off thing. So, excuse me, if you do select it, it's going to apply to all orders in the my custom plan template. So if there are certain orders that you may have to process, then you may not want to include them in the order set, or you're going to want to go ahead and uncheck that box for those. Okay, the other two items that I wanted to point out, these are the blue links I was talking about with the My Custom Plan required fields. So when you order a referral, a follow-up, or a disposition, these are the actual fields that are required. They'll show in red on the template. So if I go in and I click to set up a referral, it's going to say, hey, I want to have the specialty, the provider location, and the time frame. If I remove the specialty, then that won't show up in red. Right? The set default display for plan types in my custom plan, that's that one where it's either all or internal. Okay, so you would actually see like your internal providers first for referrals as opposed to all providers listed. Same with follow-up too. So if I go ahead and I check those and save it, so then we'll see all the internal selections first, so any provider that's in your practice or enterprise, and then you can hit show all and it'll show you the external ones. Okay, so that's the top section of this template. I'm going to go ahead and slide that up just for the ease of the visual side of it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually run in through, create an order set, and build that on today's visit. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and choose an order set here, and I'm just going to choose, you can type in here, I'm going to type in hypertension. Now, as you can see, and this is like it is for a few of my clients, there's several different order set names of the same kind and the same diagnosis group. The only difference is, and I'm going to slide this over so you can see, that it's either specific to a specialty, it's specific to a provider, and then it's also some are defaulted and some are not. So when I say the ones that are defaulted, and I'll show you what that means when I select this default group right here. So I'm going to choose the hypertension for Dr. Barry Anderson, and this is a family practice entry. Now, what we do is when you see the set as default for DX group, I'm going to go down here and I'm going to choose the same one because I want to see what's in there initially before I start making any kind of adjustments. And once again, like I said, there's a duplicate entries in here, and that's because when you do this large conversion of all the order sets, which I did specifically for this, then you might have several that are duplicated. All right, so now as we have a listing of the hypertension and the bottom filter, it has a listing of all the orders and all the different order types and the specific orders, and that's what applies to this order set name up here. You see this default column right here with the Y? That's where this comes from, set as default for DX group. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna add in a lab. So this was the selection I was telling you about, the lab orders, diagnostics, medications, so on and so forth, instructions. Enter in any type of order that you would like to have added to this order set. So then what I'm going to do is just go ahead and select here, and I'm just going to type in a lipid panel. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and type in urinalysis. So we get the selection choice, and we're going to go ahead and choose urinalysis. I'm just going to do this one. I'm going to hit OK. And then once I hit OK, I hit add, it's going to say, hey, order set item successfully added. You're going to see it drop down here once I hit the OK button and the template refreshes. So now you're going to see that order. When I click on this order, it'll pop right back up on here. If I chose the wrong one and I want to change it, I can. Okay. Um, so what this does for you is it actually goes ahead and adds it to the order set, and there you have it. Now you can do the same thing for diagnostics. For the sake of time, I'm probably going to hold off on adding a bunch more, but you'll be able to see this one. I did want to show you one item here. When you build your x-rays, you can build your specific diagnostic studies, and you can actually go ahead and hit document the site, orientation, or position, and that will actually be attached to the order in your order set. So if you know you're always going to be entering the same thing, then for that specific diagnostic test, you can go ahead and do that. Okay. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this, and I recommend saving this as you work through. This is a pretty hefty template, so there could be times where it could drag your session a little bit. So I would always emphasize that you go ahead and save it as you go along. Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and just add in one instruction, which actually, yes, I already have instructions in here. So here's the instruction selection, and all it is just choose instruction there, just like any of the other types of classes, you would be able to choose the different items. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and save. I'm going to go ahead and close out of the template there, and we're going to go into my plan. So I've already conveniently given assessments and diagnosis to this patient. So I'm going to go ahead and just choose essential hypertension. And then you'll see here that once I select that, the order assessment is here. The diagnosis group, this assessment is attached to the diagnosis group of hypertension. And I do have an order set for that. And the one that I've chosen is the default. So now if I wanted to choose a different one that wasn't the default, and once again, it'll show you all of the instructions, labs, all of those items. If I wanted to choose a different one and I wanted to go ahead and choose something different, I can go ahead and choose that. And then if we actually check off, check on, it's going to update that information for you. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you kind of the workflow of the template. So you can look at your order set and you can select it this way. All right. And then you can go ahead and say, okay, for this, I want to choose an X-ray. Once you choose that, it's going to drop it down here for you. Now, this selection right here on row select, remove from pending orders. If you check that, and then you go in here and click on this link, it's going to drop that. It's going to take that out of the pending selection, and you're going to be done with it. So what we're going to do is we're going to choose our choose off, choose on. So we're going to go ahead and select our hypertension. And again, we're going to look at our order sets. And now when I drop one down in there, it won't be there. But what I'm going to do is you can choose all the items from the order set if you want to, or you can actually break it down and look at them each individually. So you can look at all the order set lab orders here, right? And then you can actually look at the diagnostics. You can actually look at any office medications that are added. And then also on this, in this situation, if you hit show all, you can actually go in and look for a search for a specific medication that you may have. So I just search for calcium injection, right? It's going to do its drug medication check and it's going to drop it down in there for you. Okay, we can actually narrow it down and look at individual instructions if we wanted to. Now for referrals, there's nothing that you can build for referrals, but you do see the required fields, the time frame, provider, and location. So those are the items that are required, okay? And what that will tell you is that you need to have those fields entered in or it's not going to let you go ahead and add that referral in. Also, I'd like to show you that these are all the patients that are in this enterprise. So it's actually showing you all the internal providers first. And then if you choose show all, then it's going to show you everybody, every provider that is available, like you would see on the referral template itself. Okay, I want to go back and show you one other feature that this has. For any orders that you have that have a AOE attached to them, when you click on that order, this little star here means that it's dropped down there, but you'll notice that you have your AOE exclamation point that'll show up here. So when you go and place the order, and there's no sense to really do anything else, when you go and place the order, it's going to ask you to fill in those AOE questions right away. So I'm just going to go ahead and place this order, and it's going to come up with the AOE questions. You're going to choose your answer, you're going to add it in, you're going to hit save and close. So now what happens, and that the medication is not matched, that's why that shows up there. So we're going to go ahead and hit OK. Now what happens is you'll see that everything is processed out of the window for you. And then if we wanted to, we can close out of here now. We can go to the orders module, and you'll see that in the order summary that Barry Anderson just selected this lipid panel, and it's automatically gone here, and you don't even have to worry about processing anything any further. Okay, that pretty much concludes what I really wanted to review, a simple workflow order set. Also, a couple of things, like you can't build the referral within the order set, and you can't build patient education within the order set. I know that that's a request that's been placed in NextGen to see if they can find that feature and add that to it. But anyway, the next item that I'm going to cover is going to be the telephone template. But I'm going to go back to my presentation real, and I'm going to go ahead and select the telephone call template and go ahead and start us. We're going to go to that template. All right, so the next section is the telephone call configuration utilization. So, and at the very end, I'm going to have a place where you can actually look at some links that are very valuable to review. So the telephone call configuration and utilization. So when we go here, we're going to look at the telephone call communication component primarily. What the component does is it's a new feature. It's been around for a little while. It's been around since 592, but the communication component has actually been improved over time. There's a lot of other selections and choices there. So within the communication component, truly what is it? Well, the communication component itself is basically allows the user to adjust and modify panels, which then, based on that call type, allows different entries to be placed or collection of different information. And then what you can do is you can create different profiles within the communication component that will allow you then to manipulate those panels even more. Just as some background, the profiles are different versions of the communication component. So you'll see that I have version 1.1, 1.0, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. You can name them whatever you like. I just do that for ease of use. Then you also have within the profiles, they're comprised of panels, which then you add and update the different selections within those panels, and that makes the component that much more powerful. The key and the nuts and bolts to this is the panel items. So when you choose a panel, like say for telephone call charges, and then you have charges listed there, when you actually add different panel items, those are the items that are specifically used to collect the information and where the staff would have to key that information in. All right, so before you even get going with the telecommunication template, which essentially is replacing the older telephone call template, um, you basically need to set this up in order to automatically launch. So setting up the telephone call communication template as default, essentially what you're going to do is you're going to go into the ngkbm config practice, the practice configuration template. And from there, there's a section for telephone call communication. You're going to go ahead and launch telephone communication, which is going to launch this telephone underscore call underscore com template. That's where this component is housed. You also want to go ahead and set up in your practice preferences this little link in the patient information bar, the little telephone call. So if someone is just creating an account and they hit that, boom, automatically it'll run and load up that template for you. You set that up in practice preferences, and I'll show you where that's at as well. When you set that up, what you're going to do is go here to the phone template right here, link on the EHR. So you go to patient information bar, the EHR tab, phone template, and then you're going to click on the phone. And then what you're going to do is you're going to select this template, which is telephone call communication. Instead of using the telephone call, you're going to want to have that as your selection. Once you select that, you won't be able to display anything in the label. You can do that via SQL, but if you don't, it's really not a huge necessity because you'll know that you're using the call communication template. Now, before you make any adjustments to the component, if you're in a support role for NextGen, you're going to want to go in, you're going to want to go into operations and within system administrator. So you're going to go into system administrator, you're going to choose the group that you're in, and then, or you can choose yourself if you want. You're going to want to make sure that within the operation selection that you're able to select the communication. When you select that, then all the access rights, you need to make sure they're yes, because what you're seeing here are the different call types. If you don't have access to those, then you won't be able to manipulate anything for those components. So you're going to want to make sure you have access rights to do that. All right. So listing out the different entries here, you're going to look at the communication component. Basically, like I said before, this allows you to modify the panels and make the call communications much more effective for your team as far as collection of information. So how do we change that? Well, you're going to have to take this telephone underscore call underscore com, and you're going to have to actually copy it and make a customized template, because without doing that, you will not be able to save anything on the component. So you're going to log in a template editor. You're going to go and open up the telephone call com template. And then from here, you're going to see it's in the communication panel. So in the communication panel, you're going to see this big gray component. So what you do is just click anywhere in there, right click and choose properties. Once you choose properties, it's going to bring up that component field. And then this is where you'll be able to see the different profiles that you have. You can select this drop down arrow here, and it will show you a list of what different versions you have. You can also hit settings, and then you can actually look at the different profiles as well. And this is where you can go in and edit your profiles. Okay. All right, so I'm going to break a little more information down for you. So in the process, uh, basically, if you want to create different profiles, and remember, that's just basically different versions of the communication component. So in order to create a profile, you would just go into profiles, right? So you're going to be in your profile here. So essentially that's going to that settings tab, hitting the edit profiles, and then it's going to list out all of your profiles. There's a link right here, add profile. Click on that, and then the next window that's going to come up is new profile. It's going to say, hey, do you want to copy the default profile? And hit OK. If you hit cancel, there won't be one created. So what it's going to do is it's going to automatically take the out of the box version, and it's going to save a new profile labeled profile. And then from there, what you can do is you can go in and change the name of it and all that, and then you can start editing the panels. Okay. Now with components, you can actually export and import components if you actually make a bunch of them. And you can obviously add and remove panels within your profile. So there's a lot of things that you can do there. Right, and then panel items. Like I said before, these are the nuts and bolts of the system. With panel items, within each panel, a user can add panel items. So one panel can be, in this example, we chose actions profile here. When you choose that, it'll tell you, hey, the header, that's the name. It'll ask you if you want it required or not, which if you choose false, it means it's not going to be required. It's not going to be read on that template. If you choose true, then it's going to be read, and you're going to have to answer something before you can actually set the call status to complete. The selection mode, meaning multi or single, meaning are you making one selection throughout that entire, all the panel items? Are you choosing multiple selections? Right. Then what you can do is you can say, show me the panel items. And then within the panel items, it'll show you all the different selections. So with this action profile, you actually look in, it says schedule appointment, send referral, place new medication order. So you can choose one of these or all or as many as you like. If you set it to multi, you can choose as many as you like. Okay. And then the last thing here that I wanted to mention, obviously within the panel, we've already reviewed some of the items and the properties within the panel itself. So within the panel items, there are four actually different selections here. So you have select by default true, meaning that it'll select a value by default for you. And then you have the item type. The item type is really what makes each different panel item unique. You can choose a menu, comments, multi-line comments. I'm going to show you multi-line comments. You can actually do a pharmacy search, template trigger, and then the name is just what its name is. And then sequence, you can't see it because of the screenshot, but under sequence, that's how you order your panel items. That's how you order your different panel item selections right here under items where it says schedule appointment, send referral. You would just start out, the top one is one, bottom, and then on the way down, just working your way down through the different selections. Okay, so now I'm going to take you to that demo. I did want to mention two things real quick on the telephone call template. So there are two things that are important for this communication component. It integrates with the medication module, meaning that you can go in and you can actually approve and do all those items with, and you can send tasks and so on and so forth within the call component. And then you can require and unrequire panels. But now the one thing that the ability is not there for you to do via the template is you can't remove the profile. So if you create 5 different profiles, they're always going to be there. You're not going to actually be able to remove those profiles. The only way you can remove them is through SQL. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and end my slideshow, and we're going to come right back in here and we're going to show you the telephone call communication. So remember back to where we were looking at it, wanted to figure out how do we make this guy the one that we choose. So you just go here to system practice template, and then I'm just going to choose framework content. Basically, what I want to get to is the practice configuration. So I'm just going to go up here to framework content. I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to go to practice configuration, and then scroll down, and you'll see the telephone selection right here, telephone call communication. If you have this box checked, it's going to launch the telephone call communication template. If you don't have it checked, then it's going to do the old one. The other settings that I was talking about was right here for the in the patient information bar, this little link here. You would go to file maintenance, and I showed you the screenshots there. You would go into file maintenance. You would actually, and I should have had it open, I apologize. But you're going to go into file maintenance, and then you're going to go into practice preferences under EHR. Excuse me. You're going to go into practice preferences under EHR, so EHR, and then practice preferences, so practices, and then double click there to pull up your preferences. You see preferences here. So we're going to go ahead and click that. And then from there, under preferences, you go to patient information bar, EHR, and as you can see right here, I have my telephone call communication already set. But if I choose that, I can do the search for it if I want to. You can search by template name or display name. All right, so we're going to leave that alone and go back into the EHR real quick. All right, so those are the two places where you set that up. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to close out of the practice configuration. So on this encounter now, I'm just going to go ahead and hit this link because now I have it available. It's going to pull up my link for me, which is the Emed telephone communications is what I named this template. All right, I want to show you what making a change to this thing would look like. So within this template, and there's a lot of ways you can work this template, and the link that I have at the very, very end will be really valuable to you. It takes you through the different scenarios of what to do and when to do it with this template. We just don't have enough time today, unfortunately, to cover all of that information. So I've manipulated the charges template. So as you can see, I've added an entry in here, Dwight's webinar. Now, remember what I was telling you earlier about was that the red items mean that you have to answer the question. So if you go to complete this under call status, you will not be able to do that. It's going to come back and say, sorry, you need to complete this information. But I want to show you what a unique entry looks like. So I labeled this so obviously it would show up and it would be easy for you to see. So we choose Dwight's webinar, and then I just chose test comments too, which obviously you would just label it comments. And I actually put a second label in here. So once you go in and click, so this is a multi-line comment box. So you can go in here and you can enter in as many things as you want, and you can enter in multiple lines here. And then obviously I was telling you before that when I go here and I want to say I want to add anything, I can add some information. It's going to say, sorry, you did not complete any of these required fields. So it's not going to let you do it. So you're going to hit OK. And then it's going to say the template wasn't saved. It's going to tell you once again for each of those. So we're going to choose incoming call, right? We spoke with the patient. Then we're going to go to contact information. We can fill that in if we want to. Then we're going to go to actions. And let's say we talk to the patient for 11 to 20 minutes, and we're going to talk about their assessment. You can actually go over here and you can search for the assessment, and we talk to them about hypertension. So I'm going to choose my hypertension selection, go in, status, is it chronic? And then I can submit the super bill if I would like, or I can actually enter in the call link. Now this isn't required, but you obviously want to make sure they match, all right? And then I'm going to go down here to call status. And once I hit complete, it goes ahead and generates that telephone call communication template. All right, or the document, I apologize. So that's going to go in here and it's going to document what I put in already. So contact type, incoming call with the patient, test comments 2, which is the one that I added in, the unique one. It enters in your um, comments that you put in that field, and then the status is complete. And it'll also include the diagnosis and the charge code that you entered for this patient. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close out real quick, and now I'm going to go into template editor. So we're going to go into template editor, and I'm going to show you some of the wrinkles of this. So this is where I was talking about under the communication panel. So what I've done is I've actually took and renamed this template, made a custom template out of it. So I've renamed this communication template to Emed telephone call.com, DS. So here's where, as you can see, my profile, I have version 1.3. So this is the communication component. Click here, right click, and now you're in properties. Okay, so this is where you can actually go in and create your different versions. Remember I mentioned that the different profile names are listed here. This is the one out of box. These are the custom ones that I've made over time. Now, if we want to go back to, for this template, if we want to go back to this template and we want to say, we just want to go back to the basics and the changes that I've made haven't worked out. All you got to do is hit profile name here, click on version 1.1, and then you would hit OK and you would save. And then now if we went into EHR, we launch this, it would just be back to the basic out of the box version, which is plenty good. Now for this, we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna show you how I manipulated the different profiles. So I'm gonna go in here and show you the changes that I made for version 1.3. And from here, I'm gonna hit settings. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and choose 1.3. Now this is the screen that I was telling you about where you can go in and edit profiles. You can actually make a profile for this communication component. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a profile. So how do I add a profile? I click on Edit Profiles, which is the link right here, and then I go to Add Profile. There's the message window that I showed you. A copy of the default profile will be created. Go ahead and hit OK. So now what it's done is it's created profile. Now, as you can see, the different versions are just different versions, and I can name them whatever I wanted to. Okay, so within this section, what I want to do is I want to go ahead and I want to actually rename it for us so that it's recognizable. So I'm going to go ahead and change the description. Okay, and with that, description is going to be whatever we want to say. Now, I usually do the version here, so 1.4, and then the profile name, we're just going to put Dwight webinar. I can't type today, sorry. 3. Okay, we're going to hit save. And now it's saved that new version for us. It's dropped it right in there. As you can see, those are the changes that I made. Okay, we're going to save it. Now, if we want to, you can actually edit any of your panels here. What I've done is I've created a few panels just to save us a little bit of time. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to choose test webinar. All right, so within test webinar, so this is a panel, right? The panel is the larger version, and then what makes up the different panels are the panel items. So when you choose one of these panels, you can say select, you can show me the panel items. I'm gonna go ahead and just show you this real quick. So the display next, when this is entered, if you choose something else here, when you go to display next, it's going to continue to stack things for you. So for example, and I'll show you the charges one here in a second, then so you would just choose multiple panels to be filled in throughout your selections. Then you have your name. I just named it test webinar. The header, remember that's test comments too. That's what shows up there, okay? So that's what will show up within the application. So that's pretty important. The width of 0, if it's 0, it's just gonna allow enough room for all of your selections to be made, but you can specify a certain amount of room. So if you wanted to make it 350, you could do that. Now required, there's a true and false selection here. False means that it wouldn't be required. True means that the entry would be required. And then you have selection mode, which is multi and single. So can you make one selection in your choice, or can you make multiple selections? Okay, so these are the different properties of the panel. Now, if we go to show panel items, we have one panel in there. Okay, I'm going to scroll this down just a little bit so we can see. So now you have your different selections based on what we looked at on the presentation. So select by default is true. You can select it or you can choose false, which means it's not going to make its selection for you. The item type that we want to look at is a multi-line comment, which is what I mentioned before. But if you chose menu, you could choose menu too. And then if you chose menu, then you would actually go in and you would actually make the adjustment to drop in your menu items on that panel. Okay. And then your sequence number is 1. So if I want to add another item here, and I want to go ahead and add in a menu, and the name is going to be menu, right? And then I choose 99. I would just go ahead and choose 2 if I want. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit save. So what it's done now is it's actually dropping in the panel selection of menu for us. Okay, if you want to change that, you can just go right here and you can just say Dwight 2 and hit save. All right. I can also wanted to show you the capability. If you have one of these in here and you don't like it, you can hit remove, and then that would remove that entry for you. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and save. That section may not work perfectly, but we'll go ahead and file it like that. So now we're going to go ahead and hit save. Right. It saves our data, so we're in there now. So if we look at our panel items now, we have down here Dwight Webinar, right? The name is Dwight Webinar. Now, if you want to display next, then this is where then we can actually select something else to be selected. So you can have alternate contact, and I'll show you how that works. What that's going to do is it's going to give you an alternate contact there, and it's going to make 2 grids in the same. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit save here. Oh, sorry, can't do that because of the property, because it's singular. So we'll go ahead and we'll hit change that, and we're going to change this back to none. All right, save. The data has been saved. We're going to close. So now we have here within our version, right? So if we go ahead and here we choose our profile version of 1.4. All right, and then we choose charges. As you can see, this is back to the default, right? When you see these pinwheels here, you can select those, and then you can say, you can see the different charge profiles, right? So here's your charges profile. It says charges, and it's singular, okay? And you can actually preview this too if you wanted to. So if we close out of this window here, and you choose call information, it's gonna show you the different selections in call information. All right, and this is where we talked about required being true or not, okay? And then for each of these, you can look at the panel items. Here are the different panel items. So we have items here. So this is a contact type and its profile, and then incoming call is a menu item, and all of these are obviously menu items, okay? All right, so we're gonna go ahead and hit close there. You can also look at contact information. If you wanna change these, you can. You don't have to, it just shows you the panel items, which this one's out of the box. There's nothing that changed there. Then you have actions. This one's out of the box as well. There's nothing you can really do to change that. And then you have call status, right? Now you could actually go in and you can make the call status required if you wanted to. So that way someone would have to enter something. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna change the panel item for us, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and create a new panel item. So I'm gonna hit add here, and then it creates the new, right? And on click, what do we wanna display? This is where we wanna display the selection that we generated earlier, right? So I gotta find real quick. Oh, that's right, I created it in 3 and I need to go back to 3. I apologize. Let me close here. Oh, I'm gonna go back to 3. Profile 3, charges. You can see my extra entry here. So if I wanna go in and look at my panel items, this is the item where it says test webinar. So Dwight webinar, if we want to, we can actually change that. We can remove that one and we can add another one in if we wanted to. So I'm gonna go in and on that click, we wanna go in and we wanna choose the test webinar again. You can choose it twice if you don't want to, you don't have to, but let's go ahead and add urgency onto this entry. So this is one that's out of the box and we can just label it as urgency. Okay, didn't spell that right. Trying to get you guys done as quickly as possible here. All right, and then we can set this to be the 4th item in the list. And then what we'll do is we'll save that. And you'll see that we have two items that are 4, so we're going to change one and the other. So we're going to make urgency 5, and then we're going to save it. Okay, so the data's saved here. We need to change call status. I apologize. Call status is always going to be the end. So you can set this to 99 and hit save, and it'll always be at the end, even if you have 100 choice or 98 choices in there. Okay, so if we go to urgency now, this is what's going to show up. We have the urgency selections here that are already built, spoke with. You also have test webinar clients, right? So this is where you can go in and you can manipulate your choices there. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close this. Now remember, we did this on version 1.3, so we need to make sure that this profile is the one that is selected. If not, then it won't save for us. We're going to save the template. We're going to go in and hit OK. We're going to come back out, and we're going to open up our Emed Apps communication template again, and we're going to go ahead and create a call type of charges. And now you're going to see the choices that I put in. So here's urgency, for example, and it has the two items where this was the display next feature, where once you finish up with urgency, it's going to display who they spoke with, the contact. And then we can also see that we added that in and we move call status down below. And then here's the Dwight webinar here. So we can go in, we can type in our multi-comment, and then this is the menu selection, but I don't have anything in the menu selections. Obviously, we can add more items in, but I just don't have enough time to cover all that today, unfortunately. So what I'm going to do is go in here and incoming email, spoke with patient. There's nothing that's done here. There's nothing that's required, so I'm just going to document really quickly so you guys will have a chance to post a few questions if you need. And we're going to try and submit the super bill and say yes. All right, it goes ahead and submits the super bill, and then it's going to document the call for us, right? So now we can see that the information has been documented here, right? We didn't get to this point, but we can actually go in and we can adjust it if we wanted to. We can go in and we can save the information, or we can go back in and we can create that call again. So I know there was a lot of information that we did have to cover today. That is essentially the end of the demo, but I did want to show you the two links here. I'm going to go ahead and show you this slide. Trying to figure out how to double click and start on this slide. So go here. All right, there we go. All right, so this is the other part that I wanted to mention to you, the troubleshooting. So with the packet of information you're going to get and the download that you're going to get from this, you're going to also see the My Custom Plan Template e-learning course. That one I've reviewed some of them, and I feel like that one's pretty good. And then also the telephone communication component user guide. This is the first thing that I read to when this was released to this information and kind of learn this component template and how to use the component. So I recommend pulling those two down and just taking a peek at them. You will have to have a license for e-learning, but you know, that will at least give you something to look at in reference to this presentation. And obviously, if you need any further assistance, feel free to reach out to your salesperson, and I'll be glad to help them or answer any questions that you have.
All right, I don't have any questions in the question box. If anybody has anything before they need to jump off, please go ahead and submit in there. And again, reach out to us. If you don't know what rep is, feel free to go on our website. A form on there you can enter, but we are happy to help out further if you need further details. All righty. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful day.